Hello, I'm Susan Phillip. I'm the health officer for the city and county of San Francisco, and I work for the San Francisco Department of Public Health. The past 2 years have been so challenging for students and staff and families. Thank you for everything that you have done to keep students learning and healthy and engaged, and to really value our schools and our school communities. So we are now happily in a period of transition. Our case rates for COVID-19 are coming down. Our vaccination rates are going up, and we continue to work on that. And that is allowing us to move into a period of transition in alignment with the state of California to gradually allow removal of face coverings and masks for students in San Francisco. It is safe for students and staff to remove their masks at school now, with our cases in San Francisco coming down from our recent surge. We have much lower cases than we have had. We have high vaccination rates among adults and among school-age children, and we continue to work to make sure that children have access to vaccines. So all of those factors together make now an opportunity for us to remove masks and have it be a safer environment. We do continue to recommend that students wear masks, and in particular, if a student feels more comfortable or a family feels more comfortable, everyone is welcome to mask, and no one should be criticized for their choice to wear a mask in school. So it's also important to remember that masking is just one layer of the ways in which we can keep students and families safe in the school environment. In our schools, we have improved ventilation. We can leave windows and doors open. There is also improved ventilation and air systems in many of our schools. We have the option of testing, particularly if people are having symptoms or have been exposed to someone else. We can do tests, including at home, and make sure that children who test positive are home and not coming to school. And we additionally know that if a child is feeling ill on the morning before school, they should not be coming to school. This is true at any time, but particularly during COVID-19, if people are not feeling well, whether they're staff or students, they should be encouraged to stay home. All of these measures together reduce the chances that children will encounter COVID-19 in the classroom, and they are all part of the layers that we need in order to keep children as safe as possible. So this question of wearing a mask is a really important one for students and families. I know this, I've heard this so many times. And the most important thing is that a student and their families are the best people to understand that student's particular situation. And we're moving now from a requirement to a recommendation. And that really empowers families and students to talk about this and make decisions on their own for what would be best for them. Some of the things that people are thinking about and should think about is who else is in the home? Is there anyone who has a medical condition or who's older, who might be more vulnerable? If so, masks may be the way to go and to continue wearing them for a while. What is the child's own emotional state? Are they stressed about wearing a mask? And do they feel like they'd be happier removing it? And is it a student who is otherwise healthy and able to do that? And in that case, there may be a decision to remove the mask and to be able to do that safely. But we also know this has been a very stressful time. And for some families and some students, they just feel better with their mask on. And that is okay also. We are really wanting to support families and students with the decisions that they make. And we don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable for those choices. So wearing a mask is fine. Removing the mask in most situations is fine as well. I also really want to emphasize that we should not be wearing masks outdoors. There's really no need for students in their time outside of the classroom or outdoors to need to wear a mask. And that is an opportunity for children to be able to see each other's faces, have some semblance of that ability to connect with each other in that way. And so I would strongly encourage that outdoors. And indoors, we want to continue to be supportive of the families and students and the choices that they are making. One of our primary goals, along with keeping children safe and healthy from the standpoint of COVID, is to make sure they continue to get all of the proven benefits of in-person learning for their mental health, for their physical health, for their educational achievement as well. And so this has been one of the key things that we have been focused on. One of the key ways in which we can prevent disruption from students' education, of course, is to have as many students age 5 and up vaccinated as much as possible. Those are all the age groups that are eligible at the moment, and vaccination is right now our best option, our best chance to decrease the risk of infection with COVID-19. In addition to that, the schools and DPH are really moving to a new model of thinking about protection in the classroom and how to assess what to do if one student tests positive. We're moving to a system called group tracing. And what that really allows us to do, and to do safely, as shown by data from other states that have done this, is really to say that students can remain in the classroom, can remain in learning and remain with their friends until or unless they develop any symptoms of COVID-19. So this is different than the prior system where everyone would need to go home, wait a certain amount of time, and then come back. What we are able to do now with cases going down and with vaccination being relatively high among many groups of students is to have students stay in the classroom, and they'll be monitored every day. If they're developing any symptoms, then they'll immediately be tested. In addition to group tracing, if there is a student in any situation that starts developing symptoms at school, they are really going to be encouraged to seek help, get a test, and then go home until they have completed their 5-day period of isolation. So we want to make sure that students have support with testing, with the ability to stay home for a short amount of time if they test positive, and other students will be able to continue their learning in the classroom, all with the goal of minimizing the amount of time that any student is outside of the classroom because of COVID-19. And again, we know that we can do this safely at this point in time, and given the data that we have seen from other areas that have done this group tracing approach. It is so important that we continue our focus on supporting communities and individuals, including families and students and teachers who may still remain vulnerable to COVID-19 because they have medical conditions, because they may not yet have been vaccinated. And although we have a very high proportion of adults and youth in San Francisco who are vaccinated, we know that there remain some people and some communities that have less vaccination and less protection from vaccines. Our focus as a health department in partnership with schools is really to continue to offer low barrier vaccination and to encourage and support decisions around vaccination, because that is fundamentally the primary way in which we can best protect all of our residents in San Francisco, all of our students, families, and staff that are in our schools. We also know that there are additional tools that the city is going to continue to focus on providing for our most impacted communities. And those include tests, including over-the-counter tests, so that people can more accurately understand their own status around COVID-19, especially if they have symptoms, but also masks and high-quality masks. And just as we're speaking about this transition period in schools, we are working with communities to make sure that high-quality masks are available for adults and for children, so that students and staff have access to these prevention tools when they are back in the classroom. So our focus as a department and as a city is to partner with these families and students, to partner with schools to really make these tools as accessible as we can to the people who need them. And that will continue to be our focus going forward, even as we're going into this transition period, which we are able to do now because of the decrease in cases, because of the increase in overall vaccination. But we will continue to focus on the communities and on strengthening the community's ability to prevent COVID-19 wherever it's needed, and where vaccines, tests, and masks are still an important tool for prevention.